In today's fast-paced world, socializing is often seen as a vital part of our daily lives. Social events, networking, and constant connection are typically regarded as a necessary part of success and happiness. But what if I told you that some of the most intelligent minds in history actively avoided socializing? What if for them, socializing was not a means to success or happiness, but rather a distraction and a drain on their energy? Arthur Schopenhauer, the 19th century German philosopher, is often misunderstood as a simple pessimist. However, his views on human nature and social life offer a profound insight that resonates with the experiences of many smart people today. Schopenhauer's philosophy may help explain why many intelligent individuals choose to reject the constant buzz of social interactions. In this video, we're going to dive into Schopenhauer's ideas and explore why smart people, in particular, might not only dislike socializing but actively avoid it. Chapter 1. The nature of Schopenhauer's philosophy. At the heart of Schopenhauer's philosophy is the idea of the will, an unconscious, irrational force that drives all beings. Schopenhauer was deeply influenced by the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, but he took it a step further. He argued that at the root of all existence is this fundamental blind will, a striving force that compels us to act without regard for reason or wisdom. This will manifests itself in every living being, whether it's a plant growing towards the sun or a human chasing after material wealth. The will drives us. The problem, as Schopenhauer saw it, is that this drive is insatiable. No matter what we achieve, the will never stops pushing us forward. It leaves us in a constant state of dissatisfaction. For Schopenhauer, human life is inherently full of suffering because of the ceaseless striving of the will. Whether it's the hunger for status, wealth, or social approval, these desires, once fulfilled, always give way to new desires. And this perpetual dissatisfaction makes life feel like an endless pursuit of something that can never be fully attained. For a person with a sharp intellect, the constant striving of the will can make socializing seem like just another futile pursuit, a distraction from the deeper philosophical inquiries and intellectual fulfillment that truly matter. Schopenhauer believed that most people are stuck in this cycle, chasing after things that in the end will leave them unsatisfied. Chapter 2. Socializing as a distraction. So why does Schopenhauer view socializing as a distraction? In his view, people often turn to socializing as a way to avoid the uncomfortable realities of life. By engaging in shallow conversations, attending parties, or seeking validation from others, we escape the deeper, existential questions that might make us uncomfortable. At a typical social event, most conversations revolve around trivial matters, talking about the weather, celebrity gossip, or what's happening in the news. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with these types of conversations, but for someone who has a more introspective mind, these topics can seem hollow, almost like a diversion from the deeper meaning of life. For highly intellectual individuals, these interactions may feel like a waste of time, a diversion from their true pursuits of knowledge and self-understanding. Schopenhauer argued that the distractions of society prevent us from facing the deeper existential truths about ourselves. He believed that socializing, while sometimes necessary, could serve as a temporary escape from the discomfort of confronting life's true nature. Schopenhauer viewed intellectual pursuits and solitude as the antidote to this constant striving. It's only in moments of quiet and introspection that the mind can engage in truly meaningful reflection and creativity. For many smart people, socializing takes away from this precious time that could be spent reading, thinking, or engaging with meaningful ideas. Chapter 3. The Role of Solitude. Schopenhauer was a fierce advocate for the power of solitude. In fact, he believed that solitude was essential for anyone who wanted to develop true wisdom. Far from being a sign of loneliness, solitude in Schopenhauer's philosophy is a path to self-realization and intellectual freedom. In Schopenhauer's view, intellectuals and philosophers can only find true clarity when they remove themselves from the distractions of the world. Solitude allows one to escape the pressures of social expectations, leaving the mind free to reflect on life's profound questions. For Schopenhauer, socializing is an inherently noisy and distracting activity. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions and superficialities of social life. Solitude, on the other hand, allows the individual to cut through the clutter and focus on personal growth, reflection, and intellectual development. Schopenhauer himself spent much of his life in solitude, and he argued that it was in this quiet space that he could truly connect with his thoughts. It's here that ideas come to fruition, creativity flourishes, and one can achieve peace in an often turbulent world. Chapter 4. The Irrationality of Human Behavior. Schopenhauer had a rather bleak view of human behavior. He believed that most people are driven not by reason or intellect, but by their unconscious desires, the will. This will, as we've already discussed, is irrational and constantly pushing us toward desires that can never be fully satisfied. This irrationality is especially visible in social settings. Think about it. How often do we see people engaging in heated debates or arguments over issues that, in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter? Whether it's a conversation about a celebrity's latest scandal or a political disagreement with no real resolution, the focus often shifts away from any real intellectual engagement and into the realm of irrationality. For the highly intellectual person, witnessing this kind of behavior can be deeply frustrating. They may feel disconnected from the crowd, observing that much of social life is ruled by irrational impulses rather than by reason or insight. This is precisely why Schopenhauer's philosophy resonates with those who feel out of place in social environments. The smart person often feels like an outsider in a world full of irrational desires, and because the pursuit of these desires is at odds with their own intellectual needs, socializing becomes a tedious and draining experience. Chapter 5. The Struggle for Authenticity in Social Settings. Another key reason why smart people avoid socializing is the constant struggle to be authentic. In social settings, we often feel we need to conform to expectations, hide our true feelings, and present ourselves in a way that fits in with the group. Schopenhauer recognized that most social interactions are driven by the desire to be liked or to gain approval. This can often result in inauthentic behavior, people pretending to be someone they're not in order to fit in with the crowd. For the intellectually inclined person, this pressure to conform can be suffocating. Smart people can often value honesty and authenticity above all else. They don't want to engage in shallow conversations or pretend to agree with someone just to avoid conflict. For them, socializing becomes a frustrating exercise in pretending, where meaningful, honest exchanges are few and far between. Schopenhauer would argue that the superficial nature of most social interactions is precisely why many intelligent people prefer solitude. In solitude, there's no need for pretense. One can be their true self without the societal pressures of conformity or the need for approval. Chapter 6. The Difference Between Intellectual and Social Needs. Schopenhauer's philosophy also touches on the idea that intellectual and social needs are fundamentally different. For intellectuals, the need for intellectual stimulation, deep thinking, and philosophical inquiry outweighs the desire for social interaction. Intellectuals crave the challenge of new ideas, creative projects, and exploring profound truths. Socializing, on the other hand, often requires a different kind of energy, a social energy that can sometimes feel wasted on trivial matters. For highly intellectual people, the need for deep, meaningful engagement is far stronger than the need to participate in social rituals that don't contribute to their intellectual growth. Schopenhauer himself would argue that social interactions don't provide the intellectual stimulation that people truly need. For someone who is deeply engaged in intellectual pursuits, attending social events and engaging in small talk can feel like a forced distraction. Chapter 7. The Burden of Social Obligation. Lastly, let's consider the weight of social obligations. Socializing often feels like less a choice and more like a series of obligations. Whether it's attending family gatherings, workplace events, or maintaining friendships. For intellectuals, the obligation to attend social events can feel like an unnecessary burden. These events often take away time from more valuable pursuits, like reading, writing, or simply reflecting in solitude. The constant pressure to maintain social relationships and fulfill social duties can leave an intellectual feeling drained and unfulfilled. Schopenhauer believed that social obligations, while unavoidable, were ultimately a distraction from the deeper work of self-cultivation and intellectual growth. For those who prioritize personal development, socializing often becomes a source of frustration, not enjoyment. So why do smart people hate to socialize? Through Schopenhauer's philosophy, we can see that their aversion is rooted in a desire for intellectual freedom, authenticity, and solitude. Socializing, with its distractions, inauthenticity, and irrationality, is often seen as a hindrance to intellectual fulfillment. For many intellectuals, solitude is not something to fear. It is a refuge for self-reflection, creative thought, and deep intellectual engagement. While others may find joy in social interactions, for the deeply thoughtful mind, these interactions often offer little more than distractions from the pursuit of wisdom and understanding. Schopenhauer's philosophy reminds us that the intellectual path is not always one of ease or popularity. It often means rejecting the pressures of society in favor of solitude and deep thought. So the next time you find yourself in a social setting, remember that some of history's greatest thinkers, like Schopenhauer, find meaning and fulfillment in the very thing that many others avoid, being alone with their thoughts. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you prefer solitude over socializing, or do you find balance between both? See you in the next video.